Hi guys, Vieko here. So, sixth game of the World Chess Championship 2018 has been played, and oh boy, was it a dramatic and tremendous one actually, and I'm sure a lot of it will be written about this game in the future, and it will be analyzed for decades to come. I'm quite sure about it. Okay, so but let's take one step at a time and let's take a look at the game. So Magnus opened with 1e4 for the first time in the match. In the previous two games he played 1d4 and 1c4, and now he tries the first move, probably finally wanting to test Fabiano's Petroff. And of course Caruana played e5, knight f3 and knight f6, the Petroff defense. It was not unexpected at all. He has played the Petroff throughout 2018. He played it in the candidates tournament and had some good results. And also in the leaked video there was a screenshot displaying various lines from the Petroff defense, and yeah, I'm sure Magnus has very much expected the Petroff to appear on the board. So knight takes e5, d6, and here knight d3, silly looking move. If the old masters saw someone putting the knight in front of the d-pawn, they would probably get heart attack. But the idea is simple. I mean simple, sensible. After knight takes e4, queen e2, queen e7, knight e4. So white wants to obtain some sort of an endgame where his knight will be on f4 or d5. And when you compare this to the variation with say knight f3, knight here, queen e2, queen e7, d3. So you're basically arguing that your knight is more sensible here on f4 than it is on f3 in the line I have just given. So I guess that's like the main idea, but I think most of the players would agree that this is not the critical test of the Petroff. And on Chess.com live stream, Maxim Vacherev said that expecting to score a significant opening advantage with this line is a bit naive. But then again, Magnus is known for doing this, and he has outplayed several opponents, including both Vishanand and Karakin, from innocuous looking positions. But okay, Fabiano Caruana is not not the other players. Okay, so let's take a look what happened next. Knight c6, and it looks like a blunder basically, but there is a concrete idea behind this move. By the way, knight c6 would be probably met, c6 would be probably met by knight c3, and after knight takes, d takes, queen takes, bishop takes, white argues that that his lead development and the open central files are more relevant than these double c pawns. So okay, but once again, it's hard to expect white has serious advantage here, but you know, he just wants to play the game. But okay. Knight c6 was played, knight d5, and now knight d4. And this looks like a blunder at first, because after queen c2, what does black do? But there is this amazing trick here with knight c3 check. It's a it is covered check, and yeah, white has more or less has to take the queen. And if he he can play bishop e2, but then knight c2 check and queen e2, among other things, just win for black because he will get this rook on a1. So obviously, why not taking the queen here? But after you take the queen, you get checkmated with knight c2. So this knight is the MVP here, covering these two squares. So yeah, queen c4 is not the option. So you have to take the queen. Black takes the queen, and now knight d5, threatening knight c7 with check, and also threatening the knight. But knight d4, and black has a threat of his own. And if you now take this rook, you get this move, and now the other fork is threatened with knight f2, and you're probably losing because you have to move the king, and then your knight will get trapped. And okay, I don't know whether you'll be probably able to trap this knight, but it's a bit unpleasant here for white. He had to go f3 or something, and yeah, it's complicated, but if anybody can be better, it's black, not white. Okay, my initial estimation that black is winning was probably too harsh. But okay, so knight at a3, covering the c2 square, and also preparing maybe some knight d5 in the future. Knight e6, defending c7. f3. If you play knight b5 here, then simple king d8, and you have prevented black from castling, but it's not significant since the queens are not on the board, and in the end game, king is very much at home in the center. So f3, knight 4 c5, d4, and now the logical move is c6 because sorry, okay, that's a blunder there. Okay, c6 is probably playable here as well, but okay, knight d7, c6, because after c6 you take, he takes, you take, you take. Okay, and probably Magnus wanted to play this position with this isolated pawn. So okay, but Caruana refuses. He plays knight d7, c3. Of course, I have to mention that if you take here, you get knight c7. So and now c2 is defended by the knight, so you can do that. So knight d7, c3, and now c6, knight f4, and now, well, this looks kind of drawish, and many spectators were already lamenting about this position, and this is actually similar pawn structure with the pawns on d4 and c3 and the pawns on d5 and c6, which will happen because black will push sooner or later d5. Arises from French exchange variation and some variations in the Berlin variation of the Ruy Lopez, and these positions are symmetrical and usually quite tedious. But as we will see here, even in most tedious positions, anything can happen, and this is probably the position Magnus has been aiming for because he plays with no risk and can slowly try to outplay his opponent, which he has done many times in the past. Knight b6, so basically it's uncovering this bishop's diagonal. It protects e6, but it also protects e5, which is relevant if white tries g4, because then you get f5 immediately. And if you take the pawn, black takes here, and he takes here. And now these two pawns are isolated, and actually black is the one who has small edge. And of course, if you play something like d5, then white can probably take, and with this pawn on the e file, well, it's not clear whether that's something black wants to have. Because let's say after bishop f4, you don't really want to take here, because now it's a target. You also have the b file, and yeah. Okay, so the trick in this position is that you can't rely on force variation. You need to understand the position and use your judgment to determine what's right and what's wrong. Okay, so knight b6, uncovering the diagonal. Bishop d3, just a logical move, developing and aiming at the f5 square, which is sort of a key in these structures. d5, now knight c2. Yeah, okay, not allowing this structure shattering. Maybe he could have allowed that, but okay. Let's say take, and now, I don't know, king f2. It's not clear whether black should take there. Probably he can, but okay. Knight c2, preventing this idea. Bishop d6, dislodging this knight. Knight takes c6. If you go back, then after, say, castling, you haven't really achieved anything. Is doubtful how whether you should keep a pair of the knight on the board or not. Most probably not, because now you have eternal problems with the f4 square. So okay, so takes, bishop takes, of course, and now king f2. Of course, if you go g4, then once again I think h5 is an option, and you can't defend with the h3 because your rook is hanging here with this spin, and if you go g5, well, that's not ideal, obviously, because you release the control of this square. So king f2, trying to prepare g4 in the future, trying to develop the bishop first and then expanding on the king side. h5 preventing that plan radically, and in start h4 also preventing some maybe g5 ideas in f6, g5, h4 maybe is an option. Yeah, just gaining some space on the king side. Knight c8, preparing to maneuver the knight to f5, and if black manages to exchange the white square bishops, he will be more than fine here. Knight e3, eyeing this square immediately and preparing the maneuver knight g2 and then bishop f4 and knight f4. So white basically wants to exchange dark squared bishops because his bishop is restricted by this pawn chain, and black wants to, okay, too many arrows, sorry, and black wants to exchange white square bishops because of this pawn chain is on white squares. So knight e7, g3, and now very, very interesting moment of the game, because Caruana decides to alter the course significantly with c5. Yeah, he could have played something like kind of castling, let's say, but then knight g2 and bishop f4 or something. Well, let's say bishop f5. You go. I can even go bishop f4 here. Sorry, I actually haven't checked that before. And okay, this is probably nothing serious for white, but you know, he will be first to reach the e file. This h pawn is perhaps a target. His knight can jump here. He has some options. Okay, I mean, even here, knight g2 is not forced immediately. You can first prepare maybe rook e1 or something, and yeah. Okay, but c5, it's basically, you know, telling black is trying to fight for the initiative, I think, or trying to solve his problems immediately. Knight bishop c2. So if you take here and he takes, then there is basically no way of preventing d4 in long term. Okay, you can play rook d1 first, and now if d4 you just take, because if he takes you have this discovery, bishop b5 check, and uncovering the attack on the d4 bishop, which black can't do, but black can simply castle, and now you can't really prevent the d4 threat, because you can't play knight c2 because of the pin. So if you go king g2, d4 more or less solves black's problems immediately. Let's say takes, bishop e4, and then something like rook fd8 takes, and rook b8, and yeah, it's obvious that this is fine for black in long term. Okay, he can take b pawn immediately, but white can't defend it anyhow, because if rook, okay, let's say rook g6, rook b1, he'll take on a2. So yeah, white is too tied up to do anything. So Magnus decided to play bishop c2 and allow this pawn to take here if possible. Black castles, doesn't rush with it. Rook d1, rook d8. Now white has to move this knight sooner or later. Rook g2, and now black takes, because now white can take on d4 with the rook due to bishop c5 pinning this rook with the king. So you have to take with the pawn, and yeah, now both sides have isolated pawns, but black's pawn pieces are arguably slightly more actively placed, although of course f4 is still a good square here. Rook ac8, bishop b3, knight c6, trying to get knight a5, knight c4, typical idea, and now bishop f4. Once again, trying to exchange these bishops, which is desirable for white, but here knight a5 was played, and it transpires that white can't really exchange, because you get knight takes b3, it takes b3, and now rook c2 check. This intermediate move is quite unpleasant, because now you have to play king g1, and now black takes, and if you take here, you play rook b6, and then suddenly these pawns are weak, this is weak, and yeah, black rooks are quite active. Most probably white has some defensive resources here, but it's not so easy anymore, and you don't want to enter this position willingly. Okay, and why this rook? So Magnus played rook dc1, and I was confused, why do you play with this rook? But if you play rook ac1, then black takes here, and he can avoid the exchange of the bishops by bishop e4, and your a7 pawn is not hanging, because the rook is not on a1 any longer. So that's why Magnus decides with rook dc1, because now if you take and you play this, then you can probably just take on a7 and you're not worse. So bishop b4 immediately, and now bishop d1, preserving this bishop. Knight c4, b3, and now knight a3. Obviously black wants to play knight b5, attacking the d4, preparing some c3 penetrations, bishop a3. Yeah, so basically black is slightly better here, and white has to be careful. Although I'm not sure, I think Magnus in his post-game interview said that he has been playing a bit incautiously, because you know, he said that if he were black here, he would have tried to seek equality, but with white he didn't kind of want to do that, and it led to some trouble. So he underestimated black's threats, and he overestimated perhaps his position. So rook takes c8, rook takes c8, rook c1, knight b5 now, rook exchange, and here knight e3 was played, and now knight c3. And this is like the first moment where it is apparent that Magnus was playing for more, because he decided to play bishop c2, keeping the more pieces on the board. He could have played a4, and after knight takes, this is probably close to being drawn for him. But okay, he can win. And he could have also played bishop e2, and then something like, I don't know, bishop e6, and then once again a4, and it's quite similar to the previous variation. But okay, he played bishop c2, and now after bishop a3, this pawn is a clear target in the position, but also d4 pawn is somewhat loose. So bishop b8 was played. In the post-game analysis by Peter Svidler, he said that bishop d3 was probably more resilient, because now if black plays bishop e6 defending this pawn and trying to take on a2, you have knight c2, and if he plays bishop b2, you play a4 or something like that. And if he takes immediately here, you take here, bishop e6, and now you have bishop e4, f5, knight c7. And the important point is that here knight c1 is impossible, because white simply takes and plays knight e7, check, and thank you very much, I win the game. And when you compare it now with the bishop b8, there are two problems. First, he has moved the bishop from this diagonal, and he has induced a6, which might favor black actually. So a6 and now a4. For instance, just to compare with the previous variation, if you play bishop d3 now, then black can take here. And if you take here, knight c1 is problematic now, because you can play bishop c4 because of b5. And this is where this a5 move was useful. So yeah. So Magnus decided to play f4. And once again, if his bishop was here, then he would immediately attack h5 if his bishop was here. But it isn't, and yeah, he will need to spend some time regrouping here. So black played bishop d7, trying to get the bishop to c6 and then to take a2. Of course, you can't do this because f5, and you haven't achieved anything. So f5. Once again, bishop d1 immediately was also possible, but then once again you have some sort of endgame like this, and it was clear Magnus was trying to avoid it. f5, bishop c6, and now bishop d1. Well, basically now you have to do it, and yeah, it is debatable whether this f5 is more useful than bishop d7, bishop c6, but okay. And here Caruana missed pretty decent chance to play for the win. He played bishop b2, but I think he could have taken on a2, because if you take on here, you play bishop b2, bishop e7 defending this pawn, and now you play knight c3 with the obvious idea of knight b5, bishop b6, and now knight b5, and I don't know, if you play knight c2, there is both knight d6 that is unpleasant, and bishop d7 attacking the f5 pawn. And yeah, if you have to play g4 cutting off this bishop, it is very, very unpleasant, and yeah, black has, I think, better chances here than in the game. But okay, guys, for here, this was move 40 or 39, and probably time was a factor as well, and he decided to play bishop b2, but here white simply snatched the pawn, and Caruana played knight e4 check. Once again, if you played knight e2, bishop a7, knight c3, you could have transposed to the previous line, but okay. Caruana played knight e4 check, and here Magnus played king g2. He tries to keep the eye on g3 pawn, which might become weak, but there was something to be said about something like, let's say, king f1, and if he takes here, you play knight c2, he plays bishop a7 trying to deflect the bishop, and yeah, if you take here, he'll take here, here we check, and then you have to play this endgame, which is probably fine for white, but you are a pawn down, and black can definitely push without risk. Or you have to play here bishop c7, and then after bishop d7 you're once again in some problematic schemes because this is falling and there are some complications. But okay, let's say knight b4, bishop c5, and if you take here, then bishop c6. Okay, and this is where now you're running out of moves with the knight, and okay, it's complicated to say the least. But yeah, we can't really blame Carlsen for avoiding something like this, because king g2 seemed logical to overprotect the pawn. But the problem is that after bishop d4, bishop f4, and now c5, bishop c5, well, you're more or less forced to enter something that happened in the game. So bishop f3, obviously, because black's idea is obviously d4. Sooner or later, bishop f3, knight d2, and now what do you do? Well, actually, Magnus played bishop d5, but there is some complicated variations. So Sam Shankland for Chess.com, he pointed out knight d1, and after takes, d4 check, king e2, bishop e4, g4, bishop b1, he calmly played king d2. And if you take here, there is king c2, bishop a3, and knight b2. And you are somewhat stuck with black, because after b5 preventing knight c4, something calm like bishop d2, and yeah, you don't really have some moves with as black, and actually the engine suggests this is excellent for white. Knight f1 was mentioned by Sweeter, but it's kind of similar. Knight takes, king takes, d4 check, king somewhere, king f2, bishop e4, g4, bishop e1, and now knight d2, bishop takes and king e2, and here once again this bishop is stuck, and you are a pawn down, but you have enough counterplay most probably, although nobody wants to enter something like this willingly. But okay. Let's get back to the game. Bishop d5 was played, and this essentially gives up a piece for 3 pawns, although black will be able to get one back. So bishop c3, bishop takes c3, bishop takes c6. Obviously, if you take, then you're losing, because this is check, and you can't take the knight. So bishop takes c6, bishop takes f4, bishop takes b7, bishop gets back, bishop takes c6, knight e4, attacking the g3 pawn, g4, and now bishop a3, a key move, preventing a4 from advancing and preparing knight c3. Bishop c4, preparing with b4 to defend the pawn, king f8, g5, knight c3, and now b4, a good decision, deciding to give up the b pawn and not the a pawn, because the a pawn is further away from the king side, and in general I think it is more logical to give up that pawn, because it takes more time for the king to get to the a file than to the b file. So just on general grounds, this is more sensible. Bishop takes b4, king f3, knight a4, bishop b5, knight c5, a4, immediately advancing. F6, because if black doesn't play this, then white might play sometimes in the future f6, and then this pawn will be target. So okay, a4, f6, king g4, knight e4, king h5, and now bishop e1, preventing the king from reaching g6, bishop d3, knight d6, and here a5. White decided to give up this pawn immediately to deflect the bishop, because if you look Peter Svidler's analysis, which I highly recommend, there are some variations where white waits and then black's king joins the action, and white has to give up this pawn sooner or later, but there are some instances where black can catch it with the king, and then these pieces are free to operate on the king's end, and it might turn out to be problematic. And if white tries something like takes, and king g6, then you can't do that. You can't give up this pawn, because black will be always able to stop it with something like this. And if you try to take this knight, then there is knight c7 and king e7, and this pawn will be defended. And yeah, black can slowly unravel and yeah, push your king away, and it's quite easy win. So a5, bishop takes a5, g takes f6, g takes f6, king g6, and this is actually, despite the piece down, this is actually a draw or by fortress for the moment, but there are some some critical moments yet to come. Bishop d8, king h7, not allowing the black king to get to the corner, and knight f7, bishop c5, knight e5, bishop d5, bishop a5, h5. So this pawn has to advance sooner or later, because black will simply force it on the next move. h5, bishop d2, bishop e2, knight f3, bishop d5, knight d4. And this is the critical moment of the entire game, and it's very hard to understand what is happening here. But yeah, I will try my best, although everybody knows what kind of an endgame player I am. But I have watched a number of analyses and tried moving the pieces around for this entire morning to understand what is happening. And here Magnus played king g6, which is actually a losing move, but we will see how difficult it is to refute it. The key idea here is to play bishop e4. So what white wants to do is to have both e2 under control and g8 under control. And black's idea is to get the bishop to g5 and to get to his knight to f4, attacking the h-pawn and trying to force it to advance. And once the h-pawn gets to h6, then you try to win it by rerouting the knight, and if white pushes h7 with the king on h8, then it will be a trivial win. I will try to show some decent lines, but once again, I can't outdo Peter Swider and other commentators, but I will just try to sum up their analysis. So let's say if black tries to play knight e2, immediately you play bishop d3, and now after knight f4, you can play bishop g5. So that's the problem. And if black plays bishop g5, you play bishop d3, eyeing this square. And let's say some knight f3 move, bishop e4, and you can't really make some progress. And if you try something else, let's say bishop e2, then after knight h4, bishop d3, knight g2, bishop e4, knight e3, bishop d3, king f7, bishop e4, and now knight f1. Sorry, I missed my note. So bishop e4, knight f1. This was what Swider was worried about. But after bishop d3, knight g3 check, you have this knight g3. You have this bishop c4 check, and after knight f8, you play bishop g6. And you see how crucial this is. This is like the most important defensive setup, because bishop is preventing the king from getting here, and it's also preventing knight from going knight e2, knight f4 check, which is the black's idea in this whole position. And just to illustrate, let's say white plays knight b1 here, you play knight e2 here, and after bishop c2 you either play knight g3 or knight f4. Here let's say knight g3, king g6, and now king g8, because now bishop was not on b3, and let's say bishop d3, and now king h6, and okay, now sooner or later black will either swing his knight to e5 or something. You will have to push h6, and then he will try to get the knight to, let's say, g4 and attack it, and slowly you will unravel. So the point of this endgame is that white is fighting against getting the king to h8 and pushing h6, and black is trying to accomplish it. But okay, let's get back to the game and try to understand why king g6 was a losing move. Yeah, I mean, it is a losing move, but it's hard to call it a blunder, because in order to win against it, you need to find a study-like solution that starts with bishop g5, bishop c4, and now, so now Caruana played knight f3, which leads to a draw, but bishop h4 was amazing study-like win. That puts white in sort of a zugzwang. So obviously white can play king h6 because f5 is attacked by the pawn, and black has several other threats. If you play bishop d3 trying to defend the pawn and dying the e2 square, then king g8, and once again king h8 is huge improvement for black. If you play something like bishop a2 eyeing the g8 square, he plays knight e2, and then once again, what is your move here? if you play with something like, let's say, bishop b3, knight f4 check, and then you lose this pawn, because this is the point. You have to abandon the pawn, and this is just winning. So you have to play h6 here, but then knight f4 check, king h7, and now bishop g5, and this is winning because, let's say, after bishop c4, knight g2, you have this, and f5 is falling. So yeah, there are all sorts of threats. And let's say if you defend it, then he plays knight e3 and knight g4, and the h6 will fall. So yeah, these are relatively easy variations. So the only thing that remains for white here after bishop h4 is bishop d5, and here after knight e2, once again trying to go for this knight g3 or knight f4, bishop f3. Here the most amazing move that no human will ever play is knight g1, and Fedor said that a move I believe a human player is more or less incapable of making, because after bishop g4 it traps the knight. But the winning idea consists of king g8, and now if you wait with white, there is this amazing Zugzwang idea that makes black lose a tempo. It starts with bishop e1, knight g6, king g6, bishop c3. Once again, let's say you wait, because if you don't wait, you release the knight. So you wait with king h6, but now bishop d2 check, king g6, and bishop g5. And what do you do now? If you move the bishop, you get knight h3. So h6, king h8, and now let's say h7. And here once you repeat the idea. Bishop h4, king h5, bishop e1, king h6, bishop c3, king h6, bishop d2 check, king g6, and bishop g5. And now you have to give up, because you either lose the h7 pawn if you don't do anything. So bishop d1, and now knight h3, knight h4, and black is winning. So basically multiple Zugzwang position, and the variation that is 10 move long or more. So yeah, so okay, this just wins. But yeah, good luck finding it. Aren't endgames amazing? So here after knight f3, we are back to a draw, basically. So knight e5 is threatened, but then again king h7, and you prevent this body. Your king is preventing the black king from penetrating. Knight e5, once again knight d4, bishop d3, because white is not forced to return with king g6. It allows other variations. So bishop, so after knight e5, bishop b3, knight g4, bishop c4, knight e3, bishop d3, knight g4. Caruana even repeated, which was probably not necessary. Bishop c4, knight h6, king g6, and now you can go back here because it would be a threefold repetition. So knight king e7 was played, but here after bishop b3, bishop king d6, bishop c2, king e5, bishop d3, king f4, bishop c2, knight g4, bishop b3. This is a draw, because if you play knight e5, king g7, you take here, h6, just it's trivial draw. So Caruana decided to force another trivial draw with h6, bishop takes h6, king takes h6, and here a draw was agreed, because white will simply sacrifice his bishop for the pawn. And yeah, that was like fantastic titanic struggle. Wow, it's worthy of a World Chess Championship, and wow, this endgame, I mean, I spent like 5 hours or 4 hours trying to understand it, and I'm still not sure whether I did that correctly, even with comments from top players like Fedor and Yermolinsky and Schenkel and such. And yeah, kudos to both players for providing us with entertainment. More credit to Caruana for playing this c5 idea and altering the struggle, but also kudos to Magnus for not flinching and for putting a very stubborn resistance. And yeah, it will be interesting to see what will happen next, because this Magnus approach of obtaining non-critical positions and then not playing his opponent obviously won't work against Caruana, and it remains to be seen what Magnus' plan is for the next white game. Yeah, so that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching it. Sorry it turned out to be somewhat longer than expected, but it was impossible to pass up on all the critical moments of this game. And yeah, as usual, you can watch the two videos. The links are given on the left. And yeah, if you like the video, you can think about subscribing. And that's all for today. See you after game 7. Thank you for watching and goodbye.